Hey everybody, Josh here from Solopreneur Grind, and we are back with another book review. I'm excited to jump into this. We're going to give an overview, and then we're also going to give my 3 key takeaways of the book. For this video, Crushing It by Gary Vaynerchuk. The subheading, How Great Entrepreneurs Build Their Business and Influence, and How You Can Too. Let's jump in. All right, so first, a little bit about the book in general before we get into the 3 key takeaways. So I got the hardcover. I don't know if there's a soft cover. As you can see, it's not a huge book, tips out at around 250 pages. And to be honest, it's a pretty easy read, pretty quick read. What Gary does is break the book primarily up into 2 parts. So the first half of the book, he's kind of talking more strategy, more principles, some of the key pillars to what he thinks about approaching social media, creating content, approaches you need to take, key principles you need to know that will go with you always, right? No matter what happens. The second half of the book, he talks a little bit more about specific platforms, Facebook, YouTube, etc., etc. These are things that can evolve over time. And so what he does is talks about the most popular platforms and the strategies and things that he would recommend to approach them given where we are at right now. Now, I think it's really important in this case to make sure that you're picking up the most updated version called Crushing It, as opposed to the original book that he published called Crush It. And there's 2 reasons why. So his original book, Crush It, was written in 2009. And so what that means is that some of the popular platforms and strategies at that time don't apply as much anymore, right? Because this was written years and years later. So for a book like this that talks about different strategies revolving around platforms, you obviously want the most updated content and strategies. So I highly recommend picking up Crushing It for that reason, number 1. Secondly is because what ended up happening was Gary and his team ended up getting all these emails, letters, stories from people who had read Crush It and applied it to their lives, to their businesses, and the stories of what came of it. So what they do in the book, which is really interesting, is usually every chapter or so, or every section, they include a story that was written about or by one of their readers and how they applied the lessons from Crush It to grow their business, personal brand, side hustle, etc., etc. So not only are you getting the part written by Gary, but you're also getting to read these stories of how people applied the principles and strategies of Crush It and how it worked out for them. So I highly recommend it. All right, now let's get into my 3 key takeaways after reading the book. The first key takeaway is that content is still king. So this is originally what Gary wrote about back in 2009, where these social media platforms and content marketing strategies were nowhere near as popular, right? So back then, it's hard to imagine, but Gary was kind of going out on a limb to say, hey, all you people, all you businesses should be pumping out all this different content. And some people kind of thought he was crazy. Now we're looking at this in 2023, at least that's when I'm creating this video. And we understand why he was preaching some of these things, right? Whether you're trying to grow your personal brand, a side hustle, a business, increase your marketing efforts, creating content on these platforms, whether it be video, audio, visual, a mix, written, etc., or all of them, is so much more important than ever before, especially if you want to get organic inbound, right, as a company, as an influencer, etc., etc. So probably even more so than when Gary wrote the first version of the book. Content is king, quality content is king, and that's why the first half of his book is so helpful, because it teaches you how to create it in an authentic, value-adding way. So takeaway number 1, content is still king, and make sure you're focusing on it for growth. Now, the second key takeaway I had from reading this book is that it is, but it isn't all about the platforms that you're using. And when I say platforms, I mean social media platforms, right? YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Musical.ly, etc., right? So it is all about the platforms because, as we read in the second half of the book, you want to treat different platforms differently, right? There might be different types of people on the platforms, and they're consuming your content in different ways. right? So you really want to keep that in mind and slightly adjust your content creation strategy based on the platform that you're on. If you're typing content on LinkedIn, that will probably be a different approach than if you're typing content on Twitter, versus creating maybe more long form content for something like YouTube versus shorter form content for something like TikTok. So in that sense, the platform is very important. On the flip side, and this is, I guess, an ironic lesson, is the platforms are not as important as some of the key principles that Gary preaches. So things like being authentic, adding value, telling good stories, responding to comments. These are some key principles that he teaches in the first half of the book that can be applied to all of your content. And they should be applied to all of your content, right? But maybe, again, a little bit differently depending on the platform you're using. So don't want this to sound conflicting, but it is and it isn't all about the platform that you're creating content for. Now, my last tip and key takeaway I took from this book has to do with actually creating content itself, right? We all know how important it is to create content. And heck, a lot of us try our best to create a lot of content, but we're not all crazy millionaire influencers with 1 billion followers, right? So definitely focus a lot on the first half of the book where he talks about some of these key principles and guidelines that you really want to get down pat no matter where you're posting content. And the two that really stuck out at me are, number one, being authentic, and number two, adding value, right? And these are great when they go in tandem, because why would somebody consume your content? Right now, so more than ever, there's more platforms, there's more content being posted, there's more quote unquote competition for attention than ever before. So if you're not adding value with your content, it's not enough just to post content. Starting to post content is a great start, right? But if you really want to see traction and growth, you're going to have to ask yourself, how can I add value to the people on the other end of the phone or the computer that are consuming it, right? Can I entertain them? Can I make them laugh? Can I make them cry? Maybe not so much in that regards. Can I educate them? Can I solve a problem that they're having? Can I help them achieve a goal that they've been trying to get but haven't been able to, right? So what is the value that you can provide for your readers, your listeners, your watchers, etc., etc.? Secondly, and this is in tandem with this same one lesson, is to be authentic, right? Because if you're authentic, if you're sharing your true story, your feelings, your thoughts, it's hard to get things wrong, and it's hard to run out of content ideas, right? What's one of the biggest difficulties? You go to write that blog post, you go to click play on the record, what the heck do I say? Right? But Gary is a big proponent of documenting and just being authentic of what are you going through, what's happening in your life, what's happening in your business, what's happening with your family. Obviously, it's up to you to decide where you want to draw the line of how much to share, but just being authentic can be so huge. Documenting your journey can be a whole channel and great value add in and of itself. So third lesson is to be authentic and make sure you're adding value to your audience. And if you're doing those things, you'll have a much greater chance at growth for your channel, whichever type it is. So that's it. Thanks for watching my video. Key takeaways and book review of Crushing It by Gary Vaynerchuk. I will include a link to the book in the description below. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, please let me know what you think about it in the comments. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, especially if you want more of these videos. I do a lot of reading of business books, autobiographies, memoirs, and stuff like that. So the more likes, the more subs, the more feedback, the more comments, the more I know what to do for the next video. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.